It was just like visiting an old friend when I stopped by Jennifer Stone's artwork studio in Watertown a few weeks ago. I was delighted to discover that we have many mutual friends, and though I graduated from Watertown High School a few years earlier than she did, as well as some similar interests. Her studio, a cozy building on what was once the edge of the Stone family farm, is the cheerful repository of every kind of artwork imaginable. Watercolor florals, exotic three-dimensional faces, such as you see behind us, whimsical felt figures, and her signature sunflowers let you know that Jennifer is constantly acting on the inspiration she takes from her vibrant surroundings. As she showed me the process for using a template to create fantasy portraits for one of her many workshops, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. Excuse me. I could imagine how much her enthusiasm would add to the class, even on Zoom. Let me tell you a little bit about Jennifer Engelhardt Stone. Jennifer has been painting for over 25 years and is primarily self-taught, though she has studied with a variety of artists. As you can see from the art pieces behind us, her work is typically abstracted, or what she calls non-representational. When I asked her where she gets her inspiration, she said, "From my studio," and I could see why. Projects for upcoming workshop or a new idea are bumping up against prototypes for doing interesting textures on a painting in progress, organized chaos. Many of you in this room have undoubtedly taken a class with or from Jennifer, so you already know how enthusiastic she is about art. Now the rest of us will have a chance to experience that. Please help me welcome Jennifer Stone.
And Jennifer, if you could press the got it button on the screen, but not the lead, that one, yes.
Got it, there you go.
There we go, thanks.
Let's start with questions. Gosh, I have mentioned this to several of you in this room already, that I have nothing planned to say. I just kind of tell my story a little bit about how I got started. And actually, I would have to say that I always wanted to take, there was a, what was it called, that the Ramona Vogel's deal, you know, that it was a adult education classes or something like that they hosted in Watertown. And so I had all kinds of excuses why I couldn't do it and all that, and it was basically, if I had to be honest with myself, I was scared to death. You know, pretty sure you'll be the dumb one in the class and all of those, you know, inhibitions. So my husband actually prompted me to go one evening, and I drove around the block probably 40 times before I went in, and I'm not kidding you. I thought I'd have to go get new tires that day. And I walked into the high school, which I was not familiar with because I didn't actually go to school at that school. I went to a girls' school in Watertown. And anyway, I walked in, didn't even really know where to go, and I asked somebody, well, which room where's 101? And they told me where it was. And I walked in, and I was just sure, you know, I was gonna be, you know, walking into a room with a lot of people, and I would be the dumb one. And I walked in, and Ramona looked up at me, and she goes, "Are you Jennifer Stone?" And I go, "Yes, did my kids call already?" I was positive that I had to go home right away, and she said, "No, but you're the only one in the class." So, I've said this before, I was not only the dumbest one, but I was the smartest one. So anyway, it all began from there, and I just started taking some classes from Ramona, and we dabbled in a lot of different things, watercolor, acrylic, I think we did some pastel, and I really didn't know what I wanted to do. But I thought to myself, well, what is it that attracts you when you go to an art fair? And it was always loose watercolors. I would walk into those booths and really just love those things. And so eventually I got into a watercolor lesson with her, and it was very tight and controlled. And I thought, oh, this is watercolor, it's not what I like. And it finally, I mean, I'm a little bit slow, but that was pretty slow, right? So I got myself into watercolor first and started studying with a few people, and that was helpful. But a lot of the workshops you take are just a temporary thing to help you with some techniques or whatever, but you have to just paint and paint and paint and paint. And any of you that are artists know that, right? So, I don't know, I was asked to teach a workshop one time and I laughed. I said, I don't teach workshops. And so I gave this woman a few names of people that I knew taught, and she said, well, that's all great, but we want to take a workshop from you. And I said, why? And she said, well, we just saw a publication with your painting on the front of it and we really liked it and we'd like to learn how to do that. And I said, okay, well, let me think about that. And I did. And I thought, it's only a couple of people, I'll take it on. So I did, and that's where it launched. But I just did a few here and there. Now it's become kind of my life. So I try to teach only one workshop away from home a month.
A month.
Next month I teach 2 workshops away from home. So, and I just finished a Zoom class with Linda Hoffelt and oh, there you are, Ginny. I thought you were sitting right next to her, and I went, no. And Ginny Weeks, they were in the class, and so it was really fun to have some familiar faces, and a couple gals from Sioux Falls. And so this was for a group in Calgary, Canada. And so I had, my limit of 24 people, so it's really fun to meet the artists and, chat with them. I still like in-person workshops the best because I like to give hugs. And so that's where I'm just one of those kind of people. So the Wild Women workshop that was mentioned by Marcia are the 3 pieces back here, and that's I offer them a template, so everybody's not worried about drawing. They don't have to get all nervous about, oh, I can't draw. So they trace the template, and 99% of the time everyone's looks different, even though they're doing the same template, because I teach them how to make collage paper and, all my little tricks and stuff in the class. So it's really a fun class. I've never had anybody leave and say, well, that was kind of boring. So there's a lot of laughs and a lot of people looking at each other's work and getting inspiration. So I guess I have a variety of things up here that you're welcome to look through, and they are for sale. Somebody asked me the question if anything was for sale, and I said, oh yes, everything's for sale. So I could be bought too. So anyway, I really would like to open it up to any questions now, because that's just me. I'm just a regular person. I live on an acreage, as Marcia said, and I can hardly wait to get over to my studio every day. I promised myself that I'm going to be done with any types of household things by 9:30, 10 o'clock. I grab my lunch and I take it over, and I don't go back home until 6:30 in the evening. And I would probably stay over there, except that there's a guy living in my house. Yeah. So he's just on a trial basis. We're going to be going on 50 years here pretty soon. So I'm thinking I probably better make a decision one of these days. So, anyway, I saw a hand go up back there.
Can you tell us about your studio?
Well, it was going to be a greenhouse. And I had been doing some teaching, and we were moving my furniture back in one of our living rooms and putting plastic down on the floor, and everybody was tripping and yada, yada, yada. And I thought, oh, I really don't want to go someplace else and teach. And so my husband said to me, I think we need a studio more than we need a greenhouse. So I still want a greenhouse, but anyway, so we built a separate building next door to the house. So it's just a few short steps to get over there. And it's all windows, so it's not very conducive for, hanging art, but I make it work, yeah. And I have a little bathroom and a little kitchenette, and then there's a garage attached to it, like all men do, they like, right, John? You like to put a garage onto any dwelling. Well, it's a good thing that we did, because I have overflow in there for students if they want, so. Yeah.
And you have lots of plants in there too.
Well, yeah, I got a little problem with plants. I love my plants. But they're all pretty soon going to be outside, yeah. So I have slimmed down a lot on my plants, Marcia. Okay, Julie.
Do you take a lot of your own photos that you paint from?
I take them all, yeah. You know what, an iPhone, that's it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I probably could do a better job, but my guy that takes care of my website, he says they're fine. So, and he's a photographer, so, yeah.
Would you like to show some of the images on the
Sure.
website?
Sure. She told me to click on them, so I will. Well, I'll click on this one. This is a watercolor, and I guess maybe,
There you go.
yeah, okay, is that better? Okay, and that one is actually with me too, so if you want to see it up close and personal, you can. I sometimes like to create Jennifer flowers too. They're not always botanically correct either. And I have to kind of chuckle because I hope you're not sitting in this room, but I had a woman comment on my social media, and she remarked that I had too many leaves on a rose that I had done, or some sunflower. And I couldn't even respond because I thought, I don't know what to say. You know? So I just left it as that. So anyway, okay, let's go back to the,
Why don't you tell them how you did that,
did what?
that painting? The pour.
Negative painting.
Oh, I don't know that I did a pour on that one, to be honest with you. Let me look at it a little closer. I don't think I did do a pour on that one. I don't see any indication of it.
She got negative painting.
It's negative painting. You might notice in my portfolio over here that there's a lot of negative painting. It's just
Explain that to them.
it's an addiction. And then a negative painting is, if you're gonna paint the flower, you're gonna paint everything but the flower. So I'm putting color down into a painting. Let me find you a pour so you can sort of see one of my ways of attacking. Let's see if this one is a pour. No, it isn't. But what I do is I randomly wet the paper with water, with a big brush and lots of water, and then I pour color into that, and I tip it until it settles. And then I let it dry, and sometimes I'll repeat the process again, and I may use the same color or I may use a different one. And then I let that dry, and then I start to create the painting. Let me see.
Jennifer?
Yes.
Could you talk about the two on the upper left?
The abstracts, yeah.
And when are you gonna teach a workshop on those?
Well, I'm just gonna be honest with you. I will say that experience is helpful in this one, so you qualify. But this is really probably one of my favorite forms of painting. Abstracts are really about good design. And, you know, a lot of people say, well, I don't understand abstracts. And my husband is the first person I think of when I think of somebody that doesn't understand abstracts, because if there's not a pony in the picture, he's probably not gonna go there. He will say, oh, I like the colors or whatever. He goes, but I don't get it. And I always say, you know, it's so well designed that you're perusing through the painting and seeing things in there that entertain you as you're going through it, and then exiting out of it, and then coming back in another area and seeing different things. So it's about shapes and interlocking and overlapping so that you're connecting and things like that to create good design. But yeah. So there's another one here that is the same sort of thing, and these are watercolor. You saw that one. Same thing. This was a little experiment of mine to see about using white gouache in a watercolor to create the light shapes. So the white that you see is negative painting around the existing roses. Blueberries.
Now, do you use any stenciling or
Masking?
masking?
No, I do not. what John's referring to is something that will resist the paint. And so it's, you can paint right over it. And so for those of you that don't know, I get asked that question a lot because I really just negative paint around the shape. This is a little acrylic, and I think I have some collage. Yes, I do have some collage in there. What was a little companion? This was one of the wild women, and I did not use the template on her. Now with these, I use a lot of the collage that I make, and in this one, down at the bottom where you see the flowers on her dress, I put molding paste through a stencil with a credit card or something, and then lift the stencil off there and let it dry, and then sometimes I add paint to it. I did in this case where I put silver paint over the top of it. This one does not have the hair that typically is in the wild women that I have behind me. This one's got sold, so I don't know. I can't remember if I had any other mediums in it, but I think that's it. But you can see the collage paper like on her neck, and I sometimes will glaze over it and make it just appear like a little history underneath. Let's see. Now this is one of my sunflowers. I think this one is here with me. That has, I used medical gauze in the center of this one. And this one, the same thing, and this is kind of my watercolor out of the box. This one's really out of the box. The gauze in the center as well. I think this one's here as well. That's the gauze in the center.
So can you describe how you incorporate the gauze?
What I do is I wet the area of where the center of the flower is, and then I take medical gauze and I stretch it and stretch it and stretch it, so there's very big shapes in there. And they're all abstracted. None of them are the same. And then I lay it down on that area, and then I wet it a little bit more so that there's, that's gonna stay there. And then I get some heavy pigment on my brush in different colors, a variety, and I put it on the gauze, and it spreads, and I let it dry. Sometimes I put a little salt in there, and I maybe would add even a little more pigment depending on how it looks. And then after it's dry, you peel off the gauze, and that's what you get.
Oh, you take the gauze off. Oh my gosh.
Nope, doesn't want to go. There we go. I think this painting is here as well. Do we call those anemones? I can't say that word. It's like a tongue twister.
Anemones?
Anemones. Thank you. See? Oh, I'm back to this for some reason. Okay, so let's see if there's anything else in here. Okay, Debbie in the back of the room knew my mother, and I just am curious to ask her this question, because I've had some people tell me that the template or my paintings resemble my mother. Do you think so, Deb?
I think so.
The eyes?
Especially the one with the hat on.
One with the hat? Oh, yeah.
Jennifer, aren't you doing a workshop later on this summer?
That's what I said.
Barbara always asks a question that isn't really a question. It's a statement. Yeah, I've had a few people in the room ask me today about the wild women, so I don't know, I might have to, but summers are so busy that I have made a promise to myself that I won't teach in the summer. Now, I'm teaching a studio workshop in June, but it's going to be the newest thing that I just did. Though, and it's, let's see, let me set this down for a second. I don't know if you can see these very well from there, but this is watercolor out of the box, but I designed it with tape around it, and that, you know, you work it through the whole painting until you get to a certain point, then you take the tape off, and then you start to interact with things on the outside. So it's a lot of fun to do, and you can ask Linda and Ginny if you want to about that, so.
So,
Oops, sorry, I forgot this.
you know, maybe explain to these people, not that,
No, go ahead.
the layering process of negative painting. I mean,
Okay,
more than just painting around, I mean,
Yeah.
layering, yeah.
I glaze lightly in the beginning.
Show us on one of your pieces.
Okay. You know, I don't have these on my website yet that are, the ones I just showed you. I haven't sent them to Jonas.
Like the cherries, it's layers there.
This
Or
one?
they're not cherries, are they?
Grapes.
Grapes.
This, I think, was a pour, to be honest with you. I started out with pouring color so that, you know, these, and then I probably enhanced some of them to get the color to be distributed evenly. What I think she's heading towards is, let me see if I can find one, but I don't know that I can. I leave a little bit of the history is what I think you're going for, right?
Well, each layer
Yeah.
is darker and,
Yeah, it builds up, so I add, I can't sell a workshop now. I'm telling them the whole thing. No, I'm teasing. Hopefully it will entice you to maybe join one. Each time I glaze the next color over the top of the previous one, I'm adding something, you know, I may draw more foliage, I may add another flower, whatever, and then I go back in and I'm glazing over that area around those new pieces of foliage or whatever. And I try to come up as close as I can to the previous stem, but I leave a little bit of the color that was the previous glaze. And so I call that saving some of the history, okay? And after a while, and you'll see that on the paintings that I just had up, if you look really close at, say, the stems or something or around a leaf, you'll see the colors that I used before. And it looks a little odd maybe when you're first starting to do it, but then after the painting is finished, it really is, it's kind of a cool look, I think, so.
Now, what do you mean by glazing?
It's a watered down glaze of watercolor, yeah. Let's see.
like the one straight up in the corner.
Keep going.
Keep going. Yeah, with the flowers. So you have, how many layers have you got there?
Oh, can't ask me that. I don't know for sure. It's kind of like when I apply my collage, I get asked the question, well, how many layers of collage do you have on there? And I go, I keep going till I'm happy. So,
Okay.
and I go in at the end and I add my darks to pop the center of interest. So that's kind of the final, like the abstract that's up here in the upper left-hand corner. I saved the, going in with the darks till the very end. Because if you start with the darks, you can't have fun with the glazes. And when I add more things, then when I'm just doing a light glaze, then those will show up. If that makes sense. Okay. In my acrylics, like I think this one. Oops. Content is protected. Oh, that's right. Yeah. My guy, he has protected me so that nobody can, I guess, but there is a way. Right?
Always.
Screenshot. But anyway, sometimes, I don't see it in this one, but sometimes I will scrape into the acrylic with some sharp object, and it will show the color underneath. If I'll paint a color, let it dry, put another color that's contrasting over the top of that, and then I'll write into it or scrape or do something that will give some marks, and that underlying color will show. Okay.
Now, is that on canvas or on paper?
Which one?
The acrylic that you're talking about?
The martini glass, those are on canvas. The Wild Women are acrylic as well and collage, and I do some of them on paper, and some of them on a gesso board. And I sometimes will put this one on the far end with the black and white bandana. That's paper, 300-pound paper that I work with. And a lot of times if I'm flying to teach a workshop, I don't take the bigger canvases, I just take paper. And then I affix those to the gesso board when I get home. And then I put a frame around that one to a gallery wrap frame.
So when you do your workshops, do people create their own collage paper?
Yes, that's the first couple of days of the class, we're making original collage paper. So there's nothing purchased, I used to work with napkins and, old letters and different things like that, and now that's kind of like, I don't do that. So I have about 400 packages of napkins. I'm using them for what they're intended to be used for, I guess, so. Hi, Karen.
I have a whole bin of napkins after taking you. Waiting to use them.
Well, they're nice little gifts to tuck into something. Yeah.
I was gonna say that, you've taught, I remember taking my friend who's not artistic at all to your studio, and we did a fun we took these little storybooks.
Yes.
And we redid them. That was so much fun. But you probably don't do that kind of stuff anymore. And she had a good time, even though she's not artistic.
Well, and that's a class that, you can do,
Right.
Most people can anyway. I mean, some people just don't even want to do it.
Yeah.
But I always tell people, if you have any interest in being an artist, you can be an artist.
Yeah.
It's just about learning to develop it a little bit. And my husband disagrees. He thinks that you're born with that gene in your body. And I said, no, it isn't. Because I did come from a family of, there's some artistic people in my family. So anyway, Karen.
When you're doing watercolor, what are your favorite kinds of brushes and a particular brand that you really like? Or?
That's a good question, because this weekend when I taught that Zoom class, I got asked that quite a bit. And the brush that I was primarily using, I think, through the whole thing to, paint with it's a Richardson, and it was a number 14, but it comes to such a nice point. I can get in and, do a pinpoint if I want to, or, push down. It was a round, and so, yeah.
And you use that most of the time?
I did through this weekend, yeah, I really did, but it's a brush I refer to a lot. But if I'm doing like a big wash where I need to have a lot of pigment in the brush and not have to continually fill it, I have Alvaro Castanet's brushes, and they're big, they look like a big mop brush, but they come to a really nice point as well, and you can fill that thing up and go for a long time.
I didn't know you could get a mop brush to
we
do
don't have
that.
to do
Yeah, that's $149 brush.
All the details. But I will say that I'm a big promoter of good paint, good brushes, and good paper, so.
What are your favorites for paper and paint?
I use 300-pound paper, which is expensive, I'm not gonna kid you. Each piece, I believe, if you were to buy a 22 by 30-inch piece is like $23. But I buy them in bulk, so it's a little bit cheaper, but not much. But I will work with 140 pound, I'm not gonna kid you there, those of you that understand paperweights. But it buckles a little bit, and so you either stretch it or you tape it down, and I still see that, but I'm pretty, what are your favorites?
I like arches for
Yes, that's what I
paper.
use
Is that
as
what you
arches,
use?
yeah.
I don't do watercolor that much. I mean, I feel like I just play with it, but
Yeah, that's what I do.
it's fun.
It is, it's, yeah, you can ask my two friends in the back of the room, they never see me very often because I just go over to my studio every day and I'm a hermit, but yes. Yeah, Marcia.
But sometimes you have your grandkids there, and would you talk just a little bit about the kind of projects you do with them?
Well, they always want to paint, so we go over to the studio, especially the 4-year-old, and she is a master at mud. She likes to get all the colors in the palette, and they're all mixed together. You don't even know what color they are anymore because she's got black mixed, it's all black. And then she just keeps working that same area on the paper until I'm pretty sure she's gonna go right through it, But she's happy as a clam, so, yeah. I try to get them introduced to something in my studio so that I can be in there too.
Like the little ladies, the little felt ladies and so
Oh,
on.
that's not something I do with them.
That's too, yeah, that's
I
too
do that for
advanced.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, there's no way they could, I would never give them those felting
Oh,
needles.
no, yeah.
So, not yet.
When I teach kids watercolor, I usually pop the black out and
Oh.
put it away.
Yeah. Well, she makes her own black
Oh,
by mixing
yeah, you
them
can
all.
get there, yeah, you can get there.
Yeah, I don't know, man, I don't know what that says about kids. I'm sure there's somebody in the psychology department that would tell you that there's trouble in River City. But anyway, yeah, I'm surprising everybody probably by wearing a white shirt today, because I typically wear black or black. Or black, so, yeah, or black, I might switch to black, yeah, so,
I think we have time for a couple of more questions.
Yeah.
We have some more?
okay, go ahead.
Have you ever made your own paper? Because I can see.
I haven't, no.
I can see you doing it.
No, you can't, because, and I'll tell you why, and I don't mean to make fun of you. There's a couple things that I've opted out of, and that's making my own paper, and the other thing is framing. I mean, I want job security for somebody else. So, I don't wanna buy all that equipment and take up the space that I don't have, so, yeah.
It's more time to paint, right?
It's more time to paint, that's right. And I don't do a ton of framing anymore because I don't do shows anymore. My schedule's too busy with teaching and stuff, and then family comes first. So that's, we have our grandchildren a lot, and we're fortunate to be able to spend that time with them. So, anything else?
Did you take art in high school?
Well, they offered the art classes, and I was pretty bad. I mean, I don't recall any painting or anything like that. I remember pottery, and that's, about all. So I don't know if we had choices, or they just taught pottery. So that was back in the day when we still had sewing and home ec, and stuff. I think they need to bring that back into the school system, and I think that girls and boys should take both.
So, who are your favorite artists that you have hanging on your wall?
Well, I have a lot of original art in my home, and it's all in my house, that I used to put on workshops and bring in artists and have them teach for me. And I don't do that anymore because of my schedule, but Gerald Brammer, Zoltan Szabo, Janet Rogers, we've got several little pieces of Robert Burridge. I don't really have that is my favorite. My friend Susan Luzier that lives in Aberdeen, fabulous artist.
What's the name?
Susan Luzier.
Luzier.
Is she a watercolor artist?
Yes,
How do you spell that last name?
Luzier.
Look her up.
Yeah, I don't know if she has anything, if she even has, I don't think she has a website or anything,
okay.
Yeah. She did shows, and that's actually how I took a workshop in Watertown that Ramona Vogeley brought in, and Susan was the artist, and I took that workshop, and that's how I met Susan, and we became very good friends after that, so, yeah.
Have you ever done any art festivals?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I quickly learned that outdoor festivals are a real job, and my husband doesn't travel, so I've done the Edina Art Fair, I think 3 times, and my brother lives there, so he helped me, and I rented a tent, and, they're not ideal, because they're like army tents, they're real thick and dark, so, yeah. And one of the years that these 2 gals in the back came, it was pouring rain.
Oh, yeah.
It's just the nature of the beast, and it's a lot of work. But again, I don't have the time, and I did one in Sioux Falls outdoors, but then I did some indoor ones as well. Yeah, but they're a lot of work. They really are. So,
So is some of your work in other galleries?
Right now, I have some pieces in Minnesota in a couple of different places, but they're not in galleries right now. No, to answer the question, I don't have any work in a gallery regularly. I keep thinking that I should probably do that, but finding the time to paint for myself is pretty limited. So I don't know if I could keep up with their demands, you know? Yes.
Do you do commissions?
I do. I have a little different rule on my commissions as far as, you know, but yes, I would consider it, yeah.
Do you enjoy doing that?
Not unless they follow the one rule, the number one rule that I have, and that's to give me the artistic freedom. You know, if you came to me and said, I want you to paint me a, you know, white house, red barn with a little white picket fence, and I want a black and white dog in the front, you've already lost me. You know, I just want to do something. And my other rule is if you don't like it when I'm finished with it, then I don't want you to have it, because, you know, there's this painting on the wall, you go, well, I asked her to do this, and it's not quite what I wanted, but I had to take it, you know. And I don't think other artists probably work that way, because you put the time in and taking your time away from something else. So, yeah. I don't do a lot of them, I'll tell you that, yeah.
When I asked Jennifer to do this, she said, you know, I've seen, I've only been to one of the shows, and it was the one that we had over at the, or presentations, the one that we had over at the Children's Museum, because we couldn't do it over here. And she said, that was just, yes. And she said, that was just fabulous. And I said, it was just fabulous. She says, I'm not going to do that. She said, I can't do that.
Yeah.
But I would say that this format has been just as fabulous. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.